Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Norse Nation. We're at the Mellow Mushroom Pizza, Wilder. That's at exit 77, right off Highway 275, otherwise known as the AA Highway. And for the next hour, we will be talking Northern Kentucky University basketball, both on the men's and the women's side. Both came up with a win this weekend, and so we have a lot of good things to talk about. I'm Jim Kelch, along with Steve Moeller. Dave Bezold is here. Coach Plitzuweit will be here a little bit later on, and we also have Deontae Cole, who's going to be with us tonight. And on the women's side, we also have a guest who's going to be with us, and that would be Molly Franson.
Yep.
So we've got a lot of good folks here tonight, and we're going to get all of them up here, and we'll be talking about NKU basketball on this special Monday, because today, while we set up here at the Mellow Mushroom Pizza in Wilder, it is National Pizza Day. How about that? Today is National Pizza Day, so everybody loves that. And give a big old thank you for the fellow who invented pizza.
It's almost un-American if you don't come here and buy one and get one free, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. We'll be here tonight. We'll be here next Monday. We'll be here the Monday after that, and who knows? We may be here even on the first Monday of the month of March. What are you pointing at?
Well, I'm subbing for Alicia Lawrence tonight.
Right, everybody knows that.
She's way ahead of everybody else on her pizza order tonight. This is her second one.
I don't know why that surprises you, but apparently it does. Listen, we want to talk about the men's victory over Lipscomb on Saturday, 77-60. Later, we'll be talking about the women's victory also over the Bisons, 64-57. But, Steve, before we do that, we should make note of the fact that a basketball legend, Dean Smith, passed away on Saturday, and Dean at 83 years old, 36 years as a head coach at North Carolina, and I know that you had met him, talked with him, and knew him a little bit, and we have to mention that because he was certainly a man to behold in the world of college basketball.
Well, Jim, he was a true gentleman. He cared for everyone he came in contact with, and if you were the first player on his team or the last player on his team, he treated you the same, and he was an innovator. He had his blue team at Carolina that played the last couple minutes of a half, and they were the last 5 kids on the team. He developed the 4 corners. His coaching tree is unparalleled, and one of the legends of the game. He also broke the color line in Chapel Hill with Charlie Scott, and he was just such a special man. You know, you and I were talking before the game. Most coaches, when they get into college coaching, they want to get to the Final Four. And he won 2 national championships and was in 11 Final Fours. That's unconscionable to me. 879 wins, 254 losses, won the gold medal in 76, 8 times Atlantic Coast Conference Coach of the Year, and he was just a true gentleman in every sense of the word. And I had a little special deal with him. My first coaching stop out of college was at Walnut Ridge High School in Columbus, and he recruited 3 of our players that came and played for him at North Carolina. And one Saturday morning at 8:30 in the morning, knock came on the door. I went to the door. It was Dean Smith, and we had a 6'11" kid that played on that team, Ed Stahl. He lived right up the street from me. He wanted to know if I could call Ed's mom and dad and see if he could come over, and he was a regular guest in our home on numerous occasions, and so it was really a neat situation. And our condolences go out to the North Carolina Tar Heel Nation and his family, of course. A true legend of the game.
Coach Smith retired before the 97-98 season began, and he was 83 when he passed away on Saturday. And Dave Bezold will bring you in on this because your NKU team played down there last year, and although Coach Smith was not there, you guys had hoped that you may have had a chance to meet him, right?
Yeah, we were hoping he was going to be able to be in attendance, but I know at that point he was starting to really struggle physically, and they had to really take time. And there were some times he could come to games and some he couldn't. But that was one of the things we were hoping to be able to do: meet a great man in an institution of college basketball.
I don't know if you ever met him, so I'll just ask, did you ever run into him or meet him anywhere along the way?
No, I wasn't fortunate enough to, but he's one of those guys that when you see success, you always read about him, and then you try to model some of the things that, why was he successful, and you read about him, and then you try to do some of those things.
Well, that's a good bridge, talking about success, because your team had that on Saturday, a victory over Lipscomb. The final score in that game was 77-60, and you eradicate a loss that you had in the game down there earlier in the month of January, and you really took it to them right from the get-go of this game on Saturday, didn't you feel?
Yeah, I did. I thought we had a tremendous energy about us. We've been practicing really well for the last couple weeks, and I just thought what a weird game it is. We go down there and we can't make a shot, and they come here, and I think we played better defense, but they couldn't make shots, and we're making shots. So again, our guys got out of the gate great and got us a cushion early, and I just thought all night long we played with tremendous energy and really played well on both ends of the floor.
Coach, here it was, 4 weeks to the day. We go down to Lipscomb in Nashville, and we get beat 19 down there. When you went back and looked at the films, you win by 17 Saturday. It's a turnaround, a swing of 36 points. What did you specifically work on in preparation for Lipscomb this time out?
Well, defensively, we knew we had to do some things better, transition defense for one, and then challenge shooters better, and we had a better understanding of what we had to stop and who we could give some more help off of and things like that. Offensively, it was a matter of understanding that an extra pass, and even when we were down there, we didn't have terrible shots. I thought we had wide open shots, a lot of them, but we didn't have balance, and that was the biggest thing. And this time we had balance where it was going inside. It was opportune threes and then transition. So I felt like we had tremendous balance to us. And once we started making shots, you know how it is. We built that lead at 30 points, and I just thought you seldom see that happen in the second half where you continue to extend the lead. Now that's what I was really proud of our guys.
Well, Saturday we honored Northern Kentucky's Hall of Fame class of 2015, and one of the Hall of Famers, Rick Meyer, who works on Press Row, he came down and brought us a stat. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Wishon made a three-pointer at the 9:21 mark of the first half, and that was the last field goal they had until 15:59 of the second half. A stretch of 13 minutes without a field goal. So your preparation and your emphasis on defense worked pretty well Saturday.
I didn't know that, but don't tell our guys out there they won't want to work at it any longer. I think they've arrived, but I thought they did a tremendous job. Like I said, I thought they did a tremendous job with their energy and things like that. I think the one thing defensively I think we would like to do a little bit better was that we fouled so much. I think there were a lot of fouls, but I didn't know. Watching the film again, I thought our guys did a pretty good job of it. It was just difficult to tell what was going to be called and what wasn't. But to our guys' credit, they again. I just thought we were so focused defensively. A much better effort.
You mentioned after the game that you thought the inside-out portion of your offense really worked well in the game on Saturday, right?
I do. I think the first half, Tyler White had an incredible half. I mean, he throws up 18 points, but a few of them were drives. In the second half, we didn't rely on that. And a lot of times you'll have that lead, and all of a sudden you'll start taking jumpers, and, there's full goal, and you look up, and all of a sudden it's a 12-point game, and they can chip away. I thought we did a tremendous job of throwing it into Jake Geisler and Chad Jackson and Jalen Billups, and they did a great job of, getting us baskets and really making sure that we complemented the outside game.
I thought you really did a nice job with your inside outlooks, as you just mentioned, but Jake Geisler played very well Saturday. Jalen came in with 6 for 6. And when you get that high-low look, boy, it gives you so many options, and you've just really done a nice job the last 2 or 3 games exploiting that look.
Well, it depends on how they're playing, and what Lipscomb did, they fronted the post, so that's when you want to go high-low against them. So when they're in front of the defense, when the ball's offense, when the ball's on the wing, then we want to get it swung, and our guys did a great job of understanding and then balancing the floor to allow the passes to be made inside. And it's been difficult. We had a guy a couple years ago named Ernest Watson, was the best high-low passer I've ever had. But again, our guys understood what we were looking for offensively, and they did a great job of making extra passes and keeping the floor spaced properly.
Well, you made 11 threes in that game, and some of the big numbers of it. Tyler White had 18 points, 7 rebounds, including 4 threes. All of that came in the first half. Jalen Billups had his 8th straight double-figure scoring game, 15 points in the contest. Deontae Cole, who we'll have up here later on, had 3 threes, 11 points in that game. And in the paint, you outscored them 26-10. It really was an all-around effort. It was more than a 17-point game. It kind of dwindled there at the end, didn't you think?
Yeah, I did. That's what I thought I was really proud of our guys about, taking that lead in the second half and pushing it to 30, and then keeping it between 20 and 25 most of the second half. But again, you never feel comfortable as a coach, especially with the 3-point line. But again, I was really proud of our guys after the week we had down in Florida to be able to bounce back and play just a tremendous game at home.
So the victory by the Norse gives them now a conference record of 4-4. They are tied for fourth, that elusive fourth spot, trying to get into the postseason conference tournament with a first-round home game. Right now tied for fourth with the Lipscomb team, who they've won one and lost one against this year, going into action this weekend. We're at the Mellow Mushroom Wilder here on Norse Nation on National Pizza Day, talking NKU basketball. We'll come back with more right after this from Learfield Sports. This is the NKU Sports Network on Fox Sports 1360. National Pizza Day continues here at the Mellow Mushroom Wilder. We'd like to come on down with Norse Nation. We continue to talk NKU basketball on the men's side until near the bottom of the hour. Remember, you come on down, you buy a pizza, you get a free pizza. Pretty good deal, and everybody taking advantage of it here tonight. Dave Bezold, let's talk about what's upcoming. You have, after the victory against Lipscomb on Saturday, a 2-game weekend coming up, and it's a big one. You have Florida Gulf Coast coming up on Thursday night at 7, and then Saturday night Stetson at 7. These are two teams that you just played a week and a half ago, and I asked you on the post-game show the other night if you like it coming up that fast, and you said, yeah, you really do.
Absolutely, because you're so familiar, and it's only been a week and a half, 2 weeks since we've played, so the scouting report and everything's fresh in our guys' minds, and they have a great feel of, against both teams, what we're going to have to do better this time to win the basketball game. So we're really excited, and I'm glad it is this quick.
Comer down there against us, seems like he's been there forever and a day, had 24, 4, and 3, had one turnover, and I think he played like 28 or 29 minutes. What any kind of plans for him, that anything you're going to try differently to try and contain him?
Well, we saw some things on film we'd like to, but he's so good that you've got to be real careful of trying to scheme it and not be able to be solid just fundamentally because he's so good at reading the defense and then manipulating you into things. So, again, he's just a tremendous basketball player, and if you forget, just worry about him, the rest of the kids are pretty good. So we just have to be more fundamentally sound. One of the biggest things is going to be two things: transition defense and then rebounding, blocking off. They get a lot of extra points on offensive rebounds, and they did that to us down there in some big critical moments.
We'll talk more about the game, but let's bring in our player guest for this week's show on the men's side. He's a 6'6" sophomore from Toledo, Ohio. He's been starting since, I guess the middle of December or so. He's made 15 consecutive starts. He is Deontae Cole. Hello, Deontae.
How you doing?
All right, you? Everything good?
Yes.
We appreciate your coming down tonight and talking a little basketball with us. You had, as we mentioned, a nice game on Saturday in the victory against Lipscomb. You had 3 threes in that game, 11 points, and your three-point shooting has been something that, when it's on, has really helped carry this club. You were you a three-point specialist in high school also?
Yes, that's what my coach in high school wanted me to do, was shoot, because I had so many other good guys around me in high school. So all I really had to do was spot up and shoot. So that's one thing I mastered.
You're from Toledo Central Catholic, and the history of basketball in the Toledo area is pretty special, isn't it?
Yes.
A lot of good players there.
Definitely.
Who were some of the kids that you looked up to as you were coming up?
William Buford, Brian Roberts, B.J. Raymond, Jermaine Tate, definitely. I heard a lot of stories about him from some of the people at Central, how good he was. And basically those guys were the main ones I really looked up to.
Yeah. Coach has said for quite some time now that you're getting better, but I like to watch you defensively, especially off the ball. And you seem to understand where to position yourself. You're always available to help on a driver. You recover back, close out on your guy pretty well. Was that ingrained in you, not only here, but in high school as well?
Well, in high school, our coach really preached defense. And one of our coaches, Coach Christie, he was really tough on us on defense. We maybe spent an hour and a half a day just working on defense. In high school, we normally practice 3 hours every day.
I've been there, done that.
Yes.
So
I know what you're talking about.
So you coming into to college basketball, and the coaches usually tell us that one of the biggest transitions for players coming in is they're not used to playing much defense. They've been the offensive guy in high school, and they've let other people play the defense while they get ready for the offensive side. It wasn't as much of a transition for you then as it has been for others?
No, not really, because defense was one of the main things. I mean, our high school, we basically slowed the game down, so we run a lot of offense, but our main focus is defense.
So, Bees, were you surprised, pleasantly so, certainly, when Deontae came in and how schooled he was defensively?
Oh, absolutely, because one of the things you don't know is the instincts defensively, and Deontae has those. He understands the ball movement, and he's a pass ahead, and he understands if the ball goes one direction or the other where he's going to move. So he's just got tremendous instincts for defense, and I know he was well schooled, and I know that it's very important coming out of the high schools that they're taught those, but again, it's also really helps that he has the instincts that he has that have made him transition a lot easier onto the floor in college.
Have you felt, Deontae, that now since you've been starting since before the New Year break, do you feel much more comfortable shooting the ball now? I know early on you'd get the ball and you were like kind of hesitant. Has that feeling gone away now and you're looking to put it up whenever you get a good look?
Well, Coach yells at me every day in practice.
Good for him.
Yes. When I don't take shots in practice, he yells at me.
Good.
Because normally if I don't shoot it when I'm open, it always ends up in a bad place. So when Coach yells at me, I'll take it to heart. And next time I get the open look, I'll make sure I shoot it.
Yeah. What do you do like when you're on the perimeter and you're on help side or away from the ball? Are you trying to get your feet set, or are you moving into gaps against man-to-man or zone, or you get your feet set so as soon as you catch it, or do you define yourself as a catch-and-shoot guy, or do you like to lay it down one or two bounces?
I'm more of a catch-and-shoot guy. Coach Chappelle in practice preaches every day, be ready to shoot the ball, so that's what we focus on every day in practice.
You guys went down to Nashville on the 10th of January and took a pretty good beating down there from this Lipscomb club. How was it preparing for them coming into last Saturday's game? Because you knew, I know in your heart of hearts, you had to know that one slipped away down there, and you owed them a little something last week.
It definitely did. Last week in practice, we definitely had a real good week of practice. Focused on all the basic fundamentals. We got back to that last week, and it really helped us in Saturday's game. And our communication was a lot better than it was when we went down there the first time.
Is it easier to prepare just for one team, or do you like the double weekend setup?
Either one. You just have to prepare your mind and be ready to play whenever you get the chance.
Sure, quick turnarounds.
Yes.
You got to do what you have to do.
So here you are now, 8 games into what is a shortened 14-game conference season this year. You played 16 the first 2 years, the first year that you were here at NKU, and you guys are battling that Lipscomb team for an opportunity to have a home game in the first round of the conference tournament, something that, regardless of what your record was a year ago, you couldn't do. Do you guys keep track of that kind of thing? Do you follow the scores? Do you know what's at stake when you go out to the floor each game?
We do in our minds, but I think we're taking it a game at a time, not looking ahead of anything. We take it a game at a time, and we prepare for whatever battle we have in front of us.
Not to change gears, what are you studying?
I'm an electronic media broadcasting major.
So this is right up your alley right here.
Right.
Yes.
Excellent.
Very good. When you were at Toledo Central Catholic, who else in your conference? Were you the bullies of the block up there then?
No, we played against Wisconsin's Nigel Hayes, his high school. Mark Loving from Ohio State, we played his high school. And then there was just a lot of good teams. Actually, my junior year of high school, we switched conferences. We were in the City League, but now we're in the Three Rivers Athletic Conference.
Okay.
Dave, I want to bring you in and ask you a question about Deontae. He obviously did not start last year and wasn't starting earlier this year, but now he has made 15 consecutive starts. Did he earn a role in the starting spot for your team via his defense more than his offense, or was it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination. Just we were looking for consistency, and we wanted to be a little bigger on the perimeter, and he provides that. He's got the capability of guarding, a number of guys because he positions so well. He may not be the quickest, but I call him smart quick. He understands positioning, when to take an angle, and things like that. So he's really growing as a basketball player, and against Florida Gulf Coast, he's going to rebound for us really well that game.
Who'd you draw, Deontae, to guard against Gulf Coast this time through?
Whoever coach puts me on, I just have to do my job.
Who's the toughest guy in your mind in the conference? Not necessarily at your position. Who's the top 2 players in the conference?
I would say the Dallas Moore kid from North Florida, and Josh Williams was really good. He's a really good player, but Malcolm Smith was probably another tough guy.
Yep.
I want to ask you one more question before we let you go. We talked about Lipscomb and how you let the one slip away down there. You owed them a little bit of something. How about the Stetson team coming up on Saturday? That was a game down there that I think everybody thought, hey, NKU is going to go down there, win that game, little momentum going into Florida Gulf Coast, and maybe the attention to detail wasn't quite there against the Hatters, and you really owe that team this coming weekend.
Definitely, and people really overlook Stetson, but they're a really good team. They're really young, and we have to really bring our A game when we play them Saturday.
Listen, Deontae, thank you so much for coming down and joining us on the show. Good luck studying broadcast communication. If Steve or I can help you with anything, we certainly will do our best, and keep it going down there on the floor with you guys.
All right, thank you for having me.
You bet. Deontae Cole, sophomore, 6'6", from Toledo, Ohio, our guest. Dave Bezold, good luck this weekend against the Eagles. First of all, on Thursday night, a team that beat you by 10 down there. You were right in that game near the end. And then that Stetson team, boy, oh boy, I love to see you guys come out with a victory against those guys.
We would too.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you very much. All right. Dave Bezold, the head coach of the NKU Norse. We'll take a break, switch gears, and when we come back, Coach Don Plitzuweit will be here. We'll talk about their victory over Lipscomb and switch and talk about the women's team at NKU. This is Learfield Sports, and this is the NKU Sports Network on Fox Sports 1360. From the Metal Mushroom Wilder here on the AA Highway. That's exit 77 off of I-275. We switch gears and talk about the women's basketball team at NKU. And like the men, they posted a victory on Saturday night. Their final score, 64-57 over Lipscomb, and that puts the Norse women's team right now in a tie for second place in the A-Sun with Stetson at 5-3 and 14-9 overall. Coach Don Plitzuweit with us. Don, congratulations on the win. Yeah, let's hear it for him. The victory at 14 wins now overall puts you just one win away from what you accomplished your first year, on track to surpass what you did last year at 18. And I know you don't want to hear about this.
Can we just talk about the next game?
At 47 wins in 2+ years at NKU. Pretty good accomplishment.
Well, thank you. I thought it was a great game for our young ladies. I thought we played really well defensively in both halves. We've been struggling to do that, so that was great to see us build on it and really take ownership defensively for 40 minutes. We didn't play great offensively in the first half, but we played very, very well offensively in the second half. I think scored 42 points and scored at probably about a 50% clip. And so just really, really proud of how our players responded. And we needed that. We took the bye. Sometimes you take the bye week and you practice new plays, new sets. You add a new look. Our new look was getting us better defensively. And so the good thing was it carried out into the game.
Well, you and I were speaking before we came back on the air, and Jim and I, we get to watch your game the other day, and we really enjoy watching your kids play. But the young lady for Ashley Southern from Lipscomb, I mean, she's a handful, and I mean, she leads them in every category that's known to basketball, and you held her to 16 points. And for people that don't understand the game, holding her to 16 was quite an accomplishment. She was the only player that got to double figures, and you played really good defense.
Well, I think certainly when you play a team the second time, you saw it in the men's game as well, there are adjustments that are made. Teams can play very differently. When we played down there, we really focused on taking away Ashley Southern. We really focused on surrounding her, but then that opened things up for Fothergill and for Cooper and Eubank. And so what we did this time was try to put the two together, and I thought our players did a great job on the perimeter, but then late in the game we probably paid a little too much attention to them. I thought there were stretches where we played very good defense on Southern, and she just made some tough shots against us. So she's very, very good.
Yeah.
Listen, you go in and you mentioned it, down by 6 at halftime, 28-22, but you shoot only 25% from the floor. Even though you're upset about 25%, you got to feel pretty good about being only down by 6, knowing that you're a much better shooting team than that.
Well, and I thought that we got good looks during that stretch. We really did. We missed 7 or 8 layups. We were 1 for 10 from the three-point arc, and so it was just a matter of time. But sometimes when you're not hitting shots, it's hard to stay focused defensively. And you know what? We came out of the locker room. We had a new little zip, a little pop in our step, and our players played very, very well from the beginning of the second half through the end of it.
Well, it was a 41-41 with just a shade under 9 minutes, and Melody Doss, they didn't close out on her quick enough. She drills a 3 from the top of the key, and then Gayhart hit Roush on just a classic, beautiful backdoor cut from the left wing, and I was up cheering on that one, and then. I think our bench was too.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
Casey got the power layup underneath, but you bring a young lady off the bench in Sheree Davis. I'm thinking, holy smokes, she's coming off the pine. She hits 2 threes from the left wing, just a catch and shoot. Mm-hmm. Then she penetrates when they close out on her. They foul her. She goes line, makes a 1-and-1. You go from being 41-41 to 58-49. With 3:56 to play.
That was certainly a great stretch for us. But I think when you look at what our bench has been able to do for us this year, they've really come into games and really given us a boost on the defensive end, on the offensive end, and we've been really, really fortunate that way. We've been playing more players than, very honestly, I've ever played in my entire coaching career. We're playing 10, 11 players at this point in time, and those players have responded, and so it's really been exciting to watch. And certainly we'll talk about the next stretch. What I think is really interesting for us right now, and we've talked about it on the air, is where our conference has come. Our conference RPI, the last time we were on, we talked about it being at 13. Now it's at 11. And so for not only for our players to be playing at such a high level is great, but for such young kids coming off the bench to be able to play in that type of an environment and to help us is really pretty awesome.
One quick question. Does that impact your scheduling? Like if your conference goes from 13 to 11, people don't want to come and play you.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
All right.
And that's something that...
Good news, bad news.
That's exactly right. And for us, it's a great opportunity to play against great competition and get better. And certainly heading into this next week, I feel like it was really important for us to play well against Lipscomb to build off it so that we can go on the road and take on the 2 top teams.
Yep, great.
Some of the final numbers of that game on Saturday, the 64-57 win over Lipscomb. 25 points for Melody Doss, who in the process now has 1,027 points in her career, moved to 27th all-time. She surpassed Jessie Slack for the number 27 spot, and she should, at 1,027, more likely than not, move into 26th place and pass Karen Krieger, who is currently 8 points ahead of her now at 1,035, and 14 points in that game for Sheree Davis, including the 2 threes that Steve talked about. So a 64-57 win over Lipscomb puts the NKU women's team in a dead tie at second with Stetson at 5-3. We'll talk about this weekend with Florida Gulf Coast and Stetson. Those are the opposition on the road in Florida for the NKU women's team. Also, when we come back, Molly Franson, a freshman from Tinley Park, Illinois, right up near Chicago, will join us on Norse Nation. We'll step aside, be back in a moment. From Learfield Sports, this is the NKU Sports Network on Fox Sports 1360. Mellow Mushroom Wilder is the place. Norse Nation talk show as we talk NKU basketball is what we're doing down here. We're here every Monday night through the end of the season, and we're here tonight. And we have Coach Dawn Plitzuweit, the women's head coach, talking about their victory on Saturday and looking ahead to what is going to be a trip to Florida for her team coming up this weekend, along with freshman Molly Franson from Tinley Park, Illinois. Before we get to you, Molly, let's talk to Coach for just a moment. Your second trip to Florida, Coach, and I know you hope desperately that this one, from a travel standpoint, goes a little bit better than that first one did, right? You guys had a little
we got a little extra bonding time. We got to stay overnight, one extra day, so we had some fun together.
You're going to take on a Florida Gulf Coast team on Thursday that you broke their 44-game winning streak a year ago. We talked about that. But this is a team that has had an incredible amount of success in the A-Sun. I think they've won, I wrote down, 53 of their last 54 A-Sun games. How do you go about preparing and keeping a team positive in the face of those kind of numbers?
Well, we're focusing on us and getting better. And when you play against great teams and great opposition and in a tough environment, it helps you get better. And so we're focusing on the things we need to do from the last time that we played them or from our last game where we can make improvements, whether that's how we attack, how we swing the ball. And I'm not going to give you too many clues because they might be listening. Because we put this online.
You never know.
You never know. No, I'm just kidding. So we work on us and we focus on getting us better, and then you never know what can happen.
There are a couple coaches that focused on their teams and didn't really worry about the other teams, just as you stated that you did. A guy by the name of Wooden and another guy by the name of Knight. They were pretty successful.
They did pretty well.
Yeah. Let me ask you this,
I guess
Coach.
I've never been compared to those two before. That's kind of a good group to be in. I'll take it. That's fun.
You're moving on up.
Yeah, thanks.
Let me ask you this. And been around the league a couple times, home and away, where's the toughest place setting-wise, fans and that kind of thing, for you to play right now?
Well,
Is it
both
Gulf
of them.
Coast?
Gulf Coast is really tough. Stetson's really tough. You know, they have different crowds. The Florida Gulf Coast crowd is a bigger crowd. It's a loud crowd. Last year, when we played there, it was a tie game with 10 minutes to go. We have an open three, we miss it. They come down the court, they hit a three. We come down, we miss a short shot. They come down and hit a three, and the place erupted. And it was very, very loud. You know, so those kind of things, we try to get our players ready for. But it's a great experience for them.
Sure.
Now, Stetson doesn't quite have the same amount of fans typically, but the ones that they have are usually their football players, and they're really loud and raucous. So it's actually some of the outfits and the costumes that they have on are kind of funny. So
It's when
good.
they're right behind your bench and they're into the game, and,
Right.
and we've all been places where they're calling out players' first and last names. They know the names of their dog and their parents. That's a tough ticket to go and play in situations like that.
It is, but it's a neat environment for
It
our
is.
players to be a part of. So.
Absolutely.
All right, let's bring in one of the 4 freshmen that are on your team this year, Coach. Molly Franson from Tinley Park, Illinois. And let's see, Victor Andrew High School in Tinley Park, right, Molly?
Yeah.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let's hold that thing way close, otherwise we're going to get some, yeah, there we go.
Molly, I have to ask you this. Tinley Park, it's southern suburb of Chicago, correct?
Right.
And really, really tough competition up there that you played in, right?
Yeah.
And Tinley, your high school was at large classification, big school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We graduated with 500. So.
Okay. So you had to play some really tough, good competition. How do you find your way to Northern Kentucky?
I guess through Carmen, who reached out to me, but I think playing with AAU and getting exposure that way was more beneficial to find myself in Northern Kentucky than, playing in Illinois was, because we traveled a lot around the country. So.
Right. I want to, and I saw your game the other day, and I was talking with the coach about the 9-minute mark and what happened, and there was about a 6 or 8 point run. There's a timeout, and all of a sudden you go into the game. And I go, where did she come from? And I'm looking, and I say, oh my gosh, she's a freshman. So I watched you up and down the floor while you were in there. And this is a compliment in every sense of the word. You didn't play afraid. You went in and banged with the Southern girl.
Yeah.
You played defense. You didn't make any mistake. I'm sure Coach saw several mistakes that you made, but I thought you did
played really well.
I thought you did a really good job for a freshman coming in a tense situation, and that's like building a foundation. That's putting a brick on top of a brick, and so I think good things are in the offing for you here at Northern Kentucky.
Thank you.
Molly, let me ask you, you mentioned you're from Tinley Park, Illinois. You come down here. What has been the biggest part for you in terms of transition from high school and high school sports to college and college athletics?
Well, for me, it's just every game there is no off. It's all tough. Everyone comes out to play. We get after it every day. And I think the hardest part was just physically, on our bodies. It's a big transition from high school. So that was probably the biggest level of competition and just physically getting stronger.
And while certainly you'd like to play more minutes, you'd like to start, you'd like to do all those things,
Right.
but does it help you a little bit as a freshman to kind of ease your way into things and kind of learn what's going on, learn the offense, learn the defense, maybe sit some and understand what the other players are going through?
If that's the role that I have to play, then sure, but I think I'd rather just get in there and go after it.
Well, I was going to ask you this. 1, 2, 3. Tell me the 3 things that you do best offensively.
Offensively,
Yes.
I think I have a good awareness piece on the court. On offense would be my number 1, and my number 2 would be I can help direct people that don't know where to go. So if I fill a spot because someone else leaves, and to get our motion or our offense is really movement and motion. So I think staying active, I'm pretty good at that too. And then the third one would just be, I guess putting the ball in the basket.
Hey, that's why they hang those scoreboards in the buildings, But no, that's a good thing. It's a good answer. But when the last time that you played at any level, whether it was AAU, high school, when's the last time you sat?
If ever.
If ever.
Yeah, I don't really remember.
Well, you're earning your stripes.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Well, Dawn, let's get a comment from you about Molly. And here we are 3/4 of the way through the season. Have you used her as you envisioned you would use her? Did you think you'd use her more, less, or how's that going?
Well, I think Molly and I talked about this even last week. Molly really was playing incredible basketball going into the Christmas break, and then came back at Christmas time and had a little back injury and has worked her way through that. And I think last week was probably the first week that Molly was not just back, but Molly was better than she was before. And I thought she had a great week last week, followed up today with probably her best practice. So, I think certainly we're excited for Molly and for her future and what she can do. And I after watching Ashley Southern, I really think that Molly has the potential to be a player at that caliber in this league.
Wow, that's pretty high praise right there.
That's pretty high praise.
Yeah, it sure is.
So go practice, Molly. Put the ball in the basket. See that spin move? She only came back to the baseline. That was pretty nice.
Molly, here's the way this works. If you put the ball in the basket on a consistent basis, shoot a good percentage, it's like a hitter in baseball. A guy that hits, they have to find a place to play him.
Right.
People that score, and with your length and athleticism, you can defend. That's a double whammy. So plus, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not saying it because Coach is here, but when you can talk to your coach on a regular basis like you guys do, that's so many pluses.
Right. Yeah.
So
we talked about defense first, just so you know, Steve, and offense second, just for the record. I'm just kidding.
They don't. There's nothing up on the scoreboard where they keep track of your steals. So.
Dawn, let me ask you that same thing we asked Dave. You keep track and you keep the team aware of where you are standings-wise. Here you are tied with Stetson for second at 5-3. 3 games behind the leader with 6 games to go. May or may not have an opportunity to catch Florida Gulf Coast, but certainly a number 2 seed in the conference tournament could mean 2 home games. Are you guys well aware of that kind of thing?
I'm not sure. Last year, for the first 2 years, we haven't talked about standings, where we're at, where we want to finish. We just talk about what we need to do to get better. And yet last year, our players were talking about it. So I don't know if this group is or isn't. We just talk about what we need to do and who we're playing against and what the game plan is against those teams. Because, very honestly, if we control what we can control, we're going to be the best that we can be, and we'll see what happens at that point in time. But I've never really believed in putting pressure on in your mind or any of those kind of things. And maybe you don't. Maybe it's excitement. I don't know. I don't really know what to do with it, so we don't really talk about it because I'm not smart enough to use it.
So it's more of a media and fan thing than a coach and player thing.
It must be. That's right.
It's certainly a media and fan thing.
It is.
Okay,
good.
Well, listen, congratulations on the win on Saturday. Good luck down in Florida. I take it you guys will leave Wednesday morning sometime and go on down to Florida. You'll have Florida Gulf first, so you'll be south first, then come a little bit north up near the Orlando area. Take on Stetson, the team that you defeated the first go-round, and let's hope you come back with 2 wins. But if you come back 1-1, we'll be thrilled to talk about it next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Dawn Plitzuweit, the head coach of the NKU women. And thank you, Molly,
Thanks,
for coming
Molly.
by. Good luck the rest of the year. Molly Franson, a freshman on this team from Tinley Park, Illinois. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have more of the Norse Nation NKU basketball talk show for the Mellow Mushroom Wilder from Learfield Sports. This is the NKU Sports Network on Fox Sports 1360. Mellow Mushroom Wilder, one final segment of Norse Nation for this Monday. Reminder that next Monday we'll be right back here on Fox Sports 1360. But as we look ahead to this weekend, Steve, a couple of games for the men and the women. They'll play the same opponents. The women's team will be down in Florida, playing first at Fort Myers against the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles, and then up in DeLand against the Stetson Hatters. And the men will be home on Thursday and Saturday The Thursday night game is at 7 o'clock. You'll have it. We'll have it right here on ESPN 1530 with our pregame coverage at 6:30 against Florida Gulf Coast, a team that just defeated NKU by 10. And then the Stetson Hatters on Saturday night. That's Valentine's night at 6:30 with our radio coverage on ESPN 1530. Tip-off at 7 o'clock. And that Stetson game, that's really one I think that they are going to have a drive to get a victory on, much like they did against Lipscomb.
You know, I agree with that. I've got a really unusual feeling, and I've had it for a while.
Yeah.
I think we're going to play Gulf Coast really tough. I really do, and Comer really took us apart down there.
Right.
And I think I asked Coach tonight. I think if we can control Comer and keep him off the daggone drives, he's so good with his body, and I mean he's a veteran. He just can take a defense apart. But I feel good about that. I think Dubose and Thompson, they're not as good as I thought they would be this year. And I think they're doable. I think they're gettable.
Quick question. I'm getting off topic here. Ty Green at Florida South Carolina Upstate or Comer? Who do you like better?
Ty Green.
You do? Really?
No question.
Okay. All right. So
But now let me say this: Comer with his ball club might mean more to Gulf Coast than Ty Green means to Upstate.
This coming Thursday night, we mentioned the game against Florida Gulf Coast. It's a blackout the bank, so wear black when you come to the game. Blackout on Thursday against the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles. It's also $1 select beverage night, so make sure you get there for that. And then on Valentine's Day against the Stetson Hatters, the first 500 fans receive free NKU candy hearts. There's a mascot basketball game at halftime. All the favorite local mascots will be there. And then after the game, shoot around Saturday. You can join the men's team on court post game to shoot hoops. So that's what's coming up this weekend. A couple of things going on athletically speaking that we want to mention. The baseball team, yes, it's almost baseball season. The baseball team gets started this weekend. They have a series down in, is it Blues Creek, North Carolina? Is that right? Blues Creek, Campbell University. Is that how you say that?
Yes.
Blues Creek, that's where they'll be the 13th through the 15th, 3 games down there. The softball team, while they are off this weekend, actually started last week in a tournament at Kent State.
You and I both played college baseball. Bring your earmuffs and your mittens.
One other quick note, the men's tennis team has a match on Wednesday night against Thomas More at 5 Seasons. Coming out and see them as well. That music means we are out of time. Our engineer back at the studio has been James Rapine. On site, the irrepressible Rick Uccino. For Steve Moeller, this is Jim Kelch. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on Norse Nation.